I've been around for a while. I joined in 1980, and then I worked for almost 35 years, and I retired back in 2016. And I was asked to stay on, probably because of my experience with working with Indigenous folks, in particular in British Columbia, what we call the Highway of Tears.
Hello, my name is Ella Mcharg, and this is Consulting the Experts, a podcast where we ask experts about topics that you want to know about. Today we are hearing from Wayne Clary of the RCMP about his work with EPANA and the Highway of Tears.
We travel all over the province, and we have, like, not just myself, but investigators as required to different areas to investigate, in particular, our project EPANA or Highway of Tears, which I came on in 2012. But prior to that, I worked the Robert Pickton case in the Missing Women's Task Force out of Vancouver. And then I was asked to come over and take over our project EPANA or the Highway of Tears, which is 18 missing and mostly murdered, and mostly Indigenous women. Worked a lot of serial killer cases, a lot of homicide cases, a lot of violence against women, all homicides, a lot of missing person cases. Yeah. In the past, we've had different focus groups meet with investigators up there to try to formulate a plan to move some of these unsolved files forward. But it was formalized in 2002 when our officer in charge of the British Columbia major crime created a task force to look at some of these murdered and missing files. I wasn't there when that happened, but they finalized 18 murders and missing. Actually, 5 of the 18 were missing, and the remainder were murders. And they had criteria for looking at these, which meant that they were looking at the activity, high risk activity of some of these gals. There couldn't be a suspect involved. It couldn't be a domestic situation. And it was in the vicinity of a major highway in BC. And that was kind of the criteria they looked at. But in selecting these 18, when I came over, I was curious, how they narrowed it down to that. And they actually looked at 50 some odd different investigations and brought it down to that. So here we are. But the purpose of Project EPANA or the Highway of Tears was to see, one, if there was a serial killer involved. And frankly, I've looked at hundreds of investigations, and by and large, they're very well done. In cases where there's what I'll call a stranger to stranger situation, they're difficult, especially in this province and up north. It's very isolated. And I think a lot of these crimes inflicted on these gals are opportunities for men, bad men. And there's lots of them everywhere. And the opportunity presents itself and they take advantage of it. Monica Jack, she's on our list. She was a 12-year-old girl riding her bike outside her residence, on a country road. And a fellow happened to be driving by, and he saw her, and he brought her into his truck, and he killed her. And that was in 1995. And we didn't find her body until several years later. That one kind of sticks with me just because I think of my own daughters and being that age and what an awful thing to happen to a little girl enjoying herself riding her bike. We did convict the person finally who did that, and he's in jail now. I look up north and some of the Indigenous communities up there, they're isolated. And I would say because of what our government did to Indigenous folks, decades ago. And so it's led to and disjointed family lives and violence and alcohol and drug abuse. And I've seen that my whole career. People distrust the police. But you know what? When it comes to innocent women and girls, getting hurt and killed, a lot of people want to help the police. And then, to me, in my experience, getting over the distrust with the police is just putting in some time with these folks. And I've never really had a situation where someone's not cooperated with me or trying to find information about a murdered woman, or they potentially have it and they don't talk to me, just comes some other policeman. But yeah, you just work through it with communication. I've sat with hundreds of families over the years and talked about old cases. And, um, I talk about what the police have done. Um, I get to know them on a personal level. Um, I listen to them. I empathize with them. So it's just communication and caring and showing genuine caring. We talk to people about what's happened to them. To say racism doesn't exist, it certainly it does exist, and exists in every segment of society, as far as I'm concerned, and we can see that today. When it comes to investigating serious offenses, I do not see racism affecting any investigation I've ever seen involving the RCMP. It's been a homicide, no matter who the victim is. I've never seen that, because at the end of the day, we want to, we want to catch the bad guy and put him in jail. I guess the goal is, and I would say it would be societal goal is to have them not be victims like they are. In our database, we have 110,000 people, um, 21,000 separate lines of inquiry, which could be, go to the bank, get the bank statements, or go interview this person, or do inquiries here. Persons of interest, we have probably 1,800. And we've done about 130 different polygraphs and collected tons of DNA. And here we are, there's many remain unsolved.